Kelly, his last name,
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
we have a forum. We're going to start the order of the fair reserve presentation. That's going to should take us too long, and then we'll get into the other stuff. Please invite everybody.
Good evening. So we're going to quick go through a repair reserve hearing. We always start all of our presentations just a quick review of our board goals and what it relates to what each presentation that we do. This particular one does relate to the 21st century learning environments as well as fiscal and educational solvency of our districts. And that is because what we're looking at is
21st century learning.
We're talking about a repair reserve because we have some issues going on in Clayton Huey, which we'll get into, which I'm sure everybody's very well aware of. But what we have to do is a repair reserve hearing in order to spend money from this reserve. It's a savings account that we established many years back, and it has been funded over the course of years through the general fund budget. We currently have $720,000 in that reserve, and the purpose of it is to do repairs, emergency repairs that may come up and may arise throughout the years in the district that we have not budgeted for or cannot budget for in the general fund. So that is what this is set for. The repairs have to be, to use this money, we need to have a hearing, which is what we're doing this evening, and then have board authorization to spend it on the particular item. If we don't have a hearing, if it is a real true emergency, the roof collapsed and we need to touch it, we have to then repay that money back within so much time through the general fund budget. So it is best to plan accordingly and do the hearing process to make sure the public is fully aware we're taking money from our savings account and that the board has authorized it. So our issue is the facade over at Clayton Huey. As you know, most of you, as you drive down Main Street, you see that front entrance is roped off. It has been roped off since September. We've had some crumbling of the facade. As you can see here, bricks had fallen over Labor Day weekend of last year after some storms that we've had. The roof is lifting. The sheathing is all coming up. We have some cracks in the masonry that is causing some damage coming into that roof and now weakening the entire structure. These are just some other pictures of what's going on. You can see the cracks that we have that are existing still. This is showing inside that roof. As the wind blows, that entire roof is lifting, causing rain damage to get in there, which is rotting the wood, which could cause further damage. So if we can go to the next one, I think we have the scope of work. What we need to do in order to fix that is we need to remove the existing pitch roof that is in that canopy area, remove the face brick and the deteriorating flashing that's going on over there, lift the top stones, reflash and reset it. We have some money in our budget estimates for allowance of a roof replacement. As we really get into the work, we'll find out if that needs to be done. Replace the flashing, install new roof sheathing, conduct stone repairs, which is masonry work, which is a very expensive job, reseal all the joints, and then we want to power wash and seal the front of that building in order to preserve it going forward. So just a quick timeline. A lot of people have been asking what's going on over there. Back in September is when the damage did occur. In October, we did have insurance come in and take a look to see if we can push this through insurance, being that we almost were tied to a storm damage. However, it was determined that it was just wear and tear on that building. It is an old building. So therefore, insurance is not covering the cost of it. We've been talking about it with facilities committee at monthly meetings that we have there. Our architects came out, they had masons come out, take a look at all the work in order to give us a rough estimate of it. We had J.C. Broderick, who was our environmental consultant, come out to test the lead to see if there was lead in the sheathing or anything, to determine if we would need a formal removal of that material when we do the work. And then around December, March, we were able to get some outside vendors that are on state contracts come in and take a look at it. They had drones flying above. Obviously, a lot of their inspection was weather dependent. So just around end of April, May, we got quotes from these two vendors that now finally gave us true numbers. So we have the architect's original quote, and now we have two additional quotes from vendors. Once we actually do the work, we will go out to bid the job in order to make sure we get the best pricing for the community. So we are asking for approval to spend up to $550,000 of that $750,000 that we have in the reserve. This is an up to an amount, and primarily because the estimates that we've received were anywhere from $260,000 to $465,000. It's a very large range of costs, which is why once we now have the approval to go spend the money, we have to file paperwork with the state education department in order to get a permit to do the work from the state. Then we would go out to bid and to make sure we really can lock in the best price and the lowest price for the project. And that's about it. Board of Education, do you have any questions?
No.
Community questions? So nothing. We do have a resolution on the agenda this evening for the board to authorize the funding of $550,000, and then we'll start moving forward. With that, the architects will draw up the work. Our goal is to get the paperwork up to SCD by end of next month, and then depending on SCD's approval process to get the permits. It is not a aidable expense because it is repair, but we do need permits from state education department to do the work. This is great.
Just the repair is just that one side, hopefully the power washing will be able to kind of make the front of the building.
Correct. Yep. Clean up the whole front of that building, which is lost a lot as well. Yep.
How long will the timeline
I'm not too sure where they're at for projects like this, if it's a 6 to 8 week or if they're at a longer time. They're working on hiring additional project managers. I know they did put another project manager in, so there's 3 right now. So I'm not too sure where they're at with their review process.
I think there is a probably pay more than $500.
Right, if we want, we could have an outside agent, architect look at it, but I have to look at what their review fee is too, to determine if there's the same time that West Coast Money will have, state review it. But it's gonna, once we have all the paperwork ready and set to go, at that time, we would make the determination if we want an outside review.
Right, just like you get the time frame is.
Yeah.
Hopefully it goes done before the year gets the end.
Correct.
Yeah, we can lock down.
Yeah, the work has to be done either in the fall or the spring, because the curing of the cement and that work cannot happen over the winter months due to the weather and temperatures. So our timeline, we are on a tight timeline, the goal is to hopefully have it done by November, but it really will depend on SCD and the work we get the process.
Thank you.
No problem. If that's all, I'll switch it over to Ms. Maxwell.
Okay, thank you. Nobody has any questions? It's a big number, so we want to make sure that you're all aware of that. Thank you, Terry.
Yep.
Yes.
Sorry. The quotes that you received, was that solely for the outside facade and didn't address anything inside?
Correct. Yes.
Is there, I guess, is there potential that, I would assume so, that when they get in there, I think I personally seen stuff going on in that area inside as well. Is there the potential that when they start work on that, it will then?
So inside work would be more under a capital bond. So that's something Facilities Committee is working on, and we're working towards once we start up the new school year, create a bond committee, hopefully with parents, community members, teachers, PTA members, Booster Club members, join us on that committee in order to bring some of those things to our attention. There are some things that we know of and that we see that are going on that principals make us aware of. But there's also things that are going on that other people see that maybe we don't know is a priority to community members. So once that would be more probably bond work, depending on the cost. We're doing capital outlay projects. We have a lot of repair work going on in the general fund budget, but the larger cost type of these projects would either be something like this or in a capital bond.
Thanks.
Karen, just a quick question.
Sure.
What is our state aid right now? Is it
73%.
73?
Thank you. So motion to adjourn the repair. Second. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Call to order the public session. We do have two opportunities for people to make public comment. One is at the beginning of the meeting, comment on anything on the agenda, and then at the end of the meeting, comment on anything you like. And if you'd like to do that, there's a book up there, it's a circulation desk, you can just fill that out, so if there are people that want to comment, we can do it in order of fashion. And we're gonna go right to the superintendent.
Okay. Well, it's great to have a crowd like this. We haven't seen a crowd like this actually since the last time we had some students came in. So that is always a big draw. And so we're going to start with a couple of student presentations. We have two student presentations, one for PSEG Long Island, the Safety School Program, and one for some athletes. So I'm going to kick it off to Mr. Ritchie over there and allow him to introduce some of the great things happening down at the community.
Sure. Do we have a specific order we're going in? I didn't know if it was on the.
Whichever you like.
All right, let's do PSEG first. So if we can have all of our third grade PSEG friends and families and teachers and anybody else that wants to come up. And you guys want to call, sir? So I'm actually going to kind of divert a little bit of the attention over here because these amazing teachers and partnerships with families within our school district kind of coordinated this whole event. And the kids were the ones that took all of the responsibility on, so I'm not going to take any ownership here. So if any of our teachers want to just give like a little insight, or if any of the kids want to tell us a little bit about what you guys did today, or did that day.
So I'm just going to say thank you to Ms. Vanderlyn. She actually brought PSEG to our school district, so it was a partnership, and it was something that she brought to us and introduced to us, and actually helped get for our whole entire grade level. So we thank you.
I think I can explain this. The safety school program was something quite a few classes participated in. Taught kids about situational awareness, see something, say something, some principles around electric safety, and just safety in general. And as a part of that, kids created posters explaining something that they learned. And about 5,000 kids overall participated in this program for Long Island. We had a number of winners at Clayton Huey. The winner posters are on display at the Long Island Children's Museum through the end of July. So there's a big gallery upstairs, and all posters being produced and kind of set up there. I encourage everybody to go. I think the tickets are free from the local library if you wanted to go. And we had a number of winners and people that we also just like to recognize. So we had Nicolina Gutowski. Nicolina did a poster about don't stick metal objects into an outlet. We have Nicholas Haney. We have Leah Heredia. We have Jared Foster. And I know we didn't have a certificate, but we do want to get something for Brianna Escalante. And then I also want to recognize Connor Vanderlyn. Connor made the video that we introduced this program to all the schools on Long Island. So he was our safety student. Thank you, teachers, and thank you, students, for participating, and I hope you can do so again next year.
And next up, we have Mrs. Molina's Mathletes. This was a very interesting competition. Yeah, you can go ahead. So I'm going to let Mrs. Molina explain a little bit about what happened, but this was a very exciting endeavor for us. This was the first ever math competition that we had done. It was something that was brought to our attention virtually from another school district. Mrs. Molina will talk a little bit about that. And the students competed against other students virtually in a competition all across Long Island. So Mrs. Molina, if you want to give a little bit more details about that. That's okay, I'm sure you can. That's okay.
It was, yes, it was something that was just at the last minute, but other schools, a gentleman from the Middle Place School District actually said that he'd like to start something in Suffolk County mathematics tournament for 7 children. And we just adopted names, we did a lot of different things, and many of those schools, other schools, had started earlier or even in years before. So St. Rich's is just coming into it, and I have to say, we did quite well in comparison to having not really had a lot of time. Our first meeting was March 28th, and the competition was May 12th. And as a result, we have all of these athletes, 5 students from 5th grade, 5 students from 4th grade. And I'd like to present them with their certificates, and I presented the board with the questions, which there was an individual competition, and then there was the team competition that they did. And I will say that, sorry if I have to get notes here. For Clayton Huey, just looking at the kids that are right here, just our school alone, for 4th grade, Ryan Dalton was the 4th grader who answered the most questions amongst all the 4th graders. And Lucas Lynn answered the most, there's Ryan Dalton here, and Lucas Lynn, wait a minute, okay, for 5th grade. However, the top grade for the team, being 4th grade versus 5th grade, the 5th grade took with 5 out of 10 questions. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, but I can tell you, if you look at the questions and you see some of them, you're probably going. Answer me. Because that's how it was when we first looked at some of these questions, and they were very well. When we got to the Suffolk County part of it, I would say it was just very interesting, and these kids worked so hard. It was an all-day competition. They started at 9 o'clock in the morning. It was all virtual, all prepared. They had to actually do the individual parts first and separate themselves 4th and 5th, and then in the same room had to go to their team part, and they couldn't be in hearing distance of the other teams to see how well they were doing. So tonight, I want to recognize all the students for their participation. They are the first mathletes of St. Rich's, and they certainly wore their shirts that they made from, I don't know if you saw what it says on the back. Turn around and show that. Great, I have Cole Wagner. We were lucky enough in St. Rich's to have a child who's actually placed in the top 10 of the in Suffolk County that participated. And this award goes to Ryan Dalton.
And not only that, but like aside from the academic stuff, friendships were made in this group. There was awesome, collegial work done by the kids, and just a great group. Thank you.
Really, they came together. I was surprised when you just have that one core piece. This mathematics that I never expected so many to come together and, like you said, form these new friendships where they're like, I don't have friends, but I have friends now. It's just so nice to hear. So it's just a pleasure working with them, however I do. And I send this out to you, as I always would send a challenge. We need to grow this earlier. So I'd very much like to grow it there. And the gentleman from Villa Place who's running it, I would like to continue it into the 6th grade. So I'd be more than willing to the 5th grade as soon as
There we go.
Thank you again.
Okay, well, certainly, one of the things that we value here is community partnerships. So we thank CMSD for supporting us. Ms. Molina, always wonderful to join us. The things that you're doing in class and outside of your class with students is always remarkable and pushing in the challenge and everything like that. So really great stuff. And thank you for being here and sharing these wonderful things. I have to say that I did look at a couple of these questions. I solved a couple of them so quickly that I double checked everything. So congratulations to our students for really taking the part of some great things. Well, we're going to continue some positivity here because today our junior meeting is annually a meeting that we celebrate some great things in our school, excuse me. And one of those is we have a process where we take nominations for our Teacher of the Year and our Paraprofessional of the Year. And so I have the distinct pleasure this evening to acknowledge a couple of very special employees in our district. I will start with Ms. Ashley Russo, who is being acknowledged as our Teacher of the Year. I'll read from some of the things that come out of the nomination because I think that's what's most special. And you can hear from the people because these aren't just one nomination. Typically, they come from several different people within our school, whether they be parents, whether they be kids, whether they be colleagues. And so here's some of the things that people say about others. Every day, Ashley comes to work with a team mentality and great needs and undeniable love for her job. She demonstrates phenomenal leadership skills that I hope to one day exemplify so effortlessly myself. I think my favorite quote is, Ashley Russo has taught me what it means to be a teacher. She comes to work every day with a positive attitude and energy that is infectious. She exudes enthusiasm and her love and devotion for her students. She makes everyone in our classroom feel as though they're at home. And that is what I love most. Ashley is the 811 teacher, which is a very difficult job, but she has mastered gracefully. She treats her students as if they were her own children. She finds their special and unique talent and a way to communicate with each student on their level. It's a family, and it starts with Ashley, just smiling at you every morning and greeting not only the staff, but her students. So Ashley has been with us for 16 years, and she works with the 811 students at Clayton Hewitt, and just creates such an enormous, wonderful bond with those she works with, and especially those students and families that put their children in her care. So it is my absolute pleasure to congratulate Ashley Russo as the 2022 Teacher of the Year. And that was actually a true comment from Janine today. She saw you outside and she said, "You really need to go to that office space." It's also a pleasure to invite Desiree Hanlon and acknowledge her as Paraprofessional of the Year. And I will go and talk again, speak to some of the books and nominations that we made. Desiree is creative, smart, well organized, and optimistic. She not only helps to develop each student's academic potential, but also develops their self-confidence and social skills. She works diligently to gain the greatest understanding of each student and his or her individual needs. She genuinely cares for each and every student, and the students know it. It's most important. She exemplifies dedication. She works tirelessly to help her students improve academically. Desiree is the definition of leadership. She takes control of the classroom when necessary. She is her teacher's right-hand support. If she's asked to be the leader of the classroom, she does so with great skill and care. Desiree is compassionate and loving toward her students. She uses just the right balance of love and firmness to affect change for the students, who can easily get off track. So Desiree has been with us for 10 years, and she works as a paraprofessional in this office and just labs in kindergarten and first grade. So again, parents that are here, you know that when you send your child off to kindergarten, most importantly, you want to know that somebody loves your child. And I think we have that in a very special paraprofessional who does right now. So congratulations. Some more people here that I'd like to acknowledge. A little bit later in the agenda, we will be granting tenure to several teachers. I have to say, the granting of tenure, teachers and teaching assistants, the granting of tenure is something that no one takes lightly. When somebody is granted tenure, basically it's my role as superintendent. This is like the best part of the job is giving awards like that out and granting tenure to individuals who are going to affect an entire generation for some of those kids. So it's something that I have to go to sleep at night knowing that that person is going to really do great things for our kids. And we work with our team. We meet several times throughout the year talking about our untenured staff, finding out, what are the things that we need to do. This year we started with Dr. Meyer, a new teacher institute, to really build up and really try to support our teachers to set them up for success. But I'm so pleased to say that we have several individuals that we're going to be recognizing tonight, and I'm going to read some things about them. I probably should have brought a bottle of water, but I'm going to speak about several teachers here this evening. The first, and I'm going to do this in alphabetical order. First is Jackie Bottlenecker. Jackie's an 811 teaching assistant in the middle school, and she was hired in 2018, and will be receiving tenure this year. She started as a substitute for us, and has been a teaching assistant since. But one of the things that you recognize, and when I got a chance to see that, is that just genuine, absolute connection that she has with kids. She really understands what it takes to work with students with special needs. And you can see it's good. It's not something that she struggles with. She just naturally feels it. She told me that when I was in there earlier, so she was a little bit nervous about me. I said, I don't know why, you seem so natural, right? But really, it's about that connection with kids and knowing that when she's in that classroom, that even if it's, whether it's a teacher, whether it's chaplain, nothing skips a beat. That continues to go on, lessons are scaffolded, differentiated, so that the children's needs are always being met, but most importantly, that they are feeling welcomed and valued in the classroom. So I know that, this is a 10-year appointment that isn't going to last long, unfortunately, because Jack is going to be leaving the role as a teaching assistant, unfortunately. However, the good news is, I'm recommending her for a teaching position. So, Jackie, I wish you congratulations on two fronts, because in the agenda today, there is a tenure recommendation for a teaching assistant, as well as an appointment as a probationary teacher. So we're very pleased to welcome you. The second teacher I have here is math teacher in our high school. And I can say that Marissa Clifford does amazing things in classrooms. The thing that I always notice immediately when I walk into a class is just that connection and the interaction, engaging with kids. And what I noticed in her class is that, and actually I could be saying the same thing for probably a lot of these teachers, was that it was naturally there. Students clearly feel so comfortable in that environment, but she does it in a way to try to make it so that not only are they learning, but they're engaged in something that they're engaged in the learning process in a way that is fun, it's exciting, whether it's creating a math escape room or doing things that are creative. She works with students who are included with special needs, with a co-teacher. She also teaches in our highest academic class, with the International Baccalaureate math class. So it's really incredible to see somebody like that challenges herself on every single level, constantly is seeking to improve upon her practice, jumps into those IB discussions and learns from teachers around the world, actually, in conversations. And so, but not only that, she also took the girls soccer team to the county championship this year, which is pretty cool. And has done curriculum writing, has worked as when Ms. Mangonia had to step down to assume the role as principal, she stepped up and took on the co-advisor role for the Math Honor Society. So somebody who's really willing to jump in there and do a lot of great things to support our students, to support our schools, to support our community. Happy to congratulate Ms. Nurse. All right, I see Mr. Kaczynski here, and so it's easy for me to pick this up. Sorry, Mike. But I said to some of my colleagues, I said, well, if Lauren Jerk was to work with Mike Kaczynski, well, then she's an instant 10. And I said that to Mike, actually. I think you should be very So, but I do want to congratulate our special education teacher in our high school. Lauren, again, builds those kinds of connections with kids. When you see her in action, she really is there to support the students. If Ms. Kaczynski walks out of the classroom, she could be right there running that class and doing it just as effectively, or more so, probably. But she's able to relate math to real-world applications for kids, which is most important. That's where real learning takes place, when kids take the learning in the classroom and apply it to other things. And so it's really, it's about the passion, it's about the connections with kids and knowledge of pedagogy and knowledge of mathematics that really makes one special. But again, she is willing to do other things. She goes out to the reservation to tutor the kids. She also stepped up. She's the other co-advisor with Marissa for the Math Honor Society. And she has served as a co-advisor to the senior class, the junior class, the sophomore class. So really willing to be there and do anything to support our kids and support our community. And so it is my pleasure to award tenure to Ms. Yeah, we have several people. All right. Earlier this year, I was able to take a wonderful trip abroad, but I didn't leave Center Regis. I did it in the Flesh classroom in Clayton Hewitt. And it was really fabulous to visit Spain, and I actually learned so much because I had never been there. And that's courtesy of Ms. Jess Lopez, who is just really, and I can't say enough. I think she has presented at several Board of Education meetings. And when she does so, she brings in students that are so excited to be learning a foreign language, and that's evident in her class. When you walk into her class, it's brightly lit. There's interactive technology to bring you in an immersive trip. I mean, we got on a plane, we flew to Spain, we saw the countryside, we stopped for lunch, we stopped for dinner, but really just an experience that the kids can walk away and say, this was awesome. This is what I did today. And so when they come home and you ask about their class experience, I'm sure they probably talk about how wonderful it is. But not only that, I think she's a great colleague. She supports the classroom teachers. She supports students, whether they are fluent in Spanish or whether it's their first day learning Spanish. She manages to teach them in ways that gets them motivated and excited to learn a new language or strengthen their language. But she's always been involved in writing curriculum and doing all the wonderful things that we would rely on somebody that is also a native speaker, like translation services and things that are very, very helpful to us. So again, I keep saying kind of the same thing. Jess Lopez is a gem and a resource, and somebody that I want to offer our congratulations to as she receives her tenure. Melissa and I got. Melissa's been with us since 2019, and so she's been with us as a teaching assistant in the 811 class. She actually was a leave replacement to start off, and then got her probationary teaching assistant role in 2019. So that's impressive for that. But she has been doing a wonderful job there. She, again, is somebody that is able to scaffold activities and make sure that the students in the class are supported, just as though they were getting direct instruction from their teacher. Throughout her time at Center Regis, she has demonstrated incredible work, not only the students, but with the parents and with the colleges. She utilizes every means at her disposal to make sure that she connects with kids, utilizing manipulatives and providing flexibility to ensure that the students really get the most out of every lesson that she delivers. When you're in a special ed setting, sometimes you need special education setting. Sometimes you need to have you really need to get meticulous notes to be able to support the students appropriately, and she does that flawlessly. She is, again, a communicator, a collaborator, the kinds of things that we see in the IB learning traits are the kinds of things we see in the listening adoption. And so I want to congratulate her at receiving tenure as a teaching assistant. If it wasn't water, I'd want coffee right now because we're talking about somebody who has reinvented the way coffee is delivered in the high school. Jessica Spillett, just again, like I keep saying these words, a gem, somebody that really goes over and above for kids. But when you walk into the Coffee Brew Crew housing location, that started off in my first year here before. And it's amazing to think that I'm 3 years in. And in that first year, I used to walk in there and I'd say, put on Mr. Caswell's bill. And they would put on Caswell's bill and I would get a free cup of coffee out of it. And jokingly at the next administrative council say, hey, Bill, Ed, thanks for buying me coffee. And joking aside, when you walk in there, you see such purposeful learning taking place in a licensed classroom. And what she's able to do with her students to provide real meaningful life skills. You'll walk in, you'll see instructional activities taking place, but then in the back of the room, it's kind of like divided. And there's like Brew Crew Central where the students are learning how to, whether it's bake cookies or make coffee that they deliver around the school. A program that now we have Brew Crew Junior down at the elementary because it was such a huge success. This year we hosted the Valedictorian Luncheon, which is local valedictorians and salutatorians in the region were invited to center lectures. And we did it right in this very room. And I kind of had this idea. I spoke to Dr. Martin and I said, what if we could get the Brew Crew to cater this thing? And they did just that. And I can tell you that the local politicians that came, their message was, we're never going anywhere else. It's that good. And so it was a great way to connect our students with special needs in the life skill program to our valedictorian salutatorian in the region to say that everybody has a place in selling riches. But that doesn't come easily sometimes, and it comes from somebody with the biggest heart in the world to make those kinds of things happen. So I would say that, Jess, you are so deserving, and I congratulate you on receiving your tenure this evening. You're doing a wonderful job, and so proud of all the work that's happening in our life skills class. Thank you. All right. So we have one more special teacher to discuss today, and that's Mr. Chris Winslow. Chris, if you didn't know it, was actually a Marine, and this is a change of career coming into education. But I think that served him well, being in the armed services, and then being able to take those experiences and come here and share many of the things with our students in social studies. But it's not just social studies. I did see him earlier in the year in the social studies classroom, where he talked about many of the connections to the civil rights movement, to events happening today. And it was great to see purposeful dialogue around some of our own Board of Education goals, where we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and seeing the conversation take place with some meaningful substance like that in the classroom. But further, he never shies away from challenge. So it's one thing, bless you, to say, all right, I'm teaching American history, but this year he took on the challenge of teaching AP courses. And so he's also teaching 8 advanced placement courses. He's been a big part of developing our IB International Baccalaureate curriculum. But one of my favorite things that he spearheaded was he did some research and he went over to the St. Two School District and studied there their leadership program. And he emulated that peer leadership program, brought it back to Center Moriches. And we have just seen tremendous things going on with that program, where students are doing great things within their high school, doing great things to go down to the elementary school to connect kids to kids. And that comes from somebody that really understands the big picture of what we need to be doing for students. Further, he has coordinated, he was a big part of the high school being able to be designated a no place for hate school. He coordinated the PS I Love You Day, which is again, one of those events that really helps us to promote the kind of positive fun we want to in our district. But Mr. Winslow is the kind of teacher that again builds that rapport with students and serves as a wonderful role model to our kids. So it was with a great deal of pleasure that we will watch Mr. Winslow take the middle school boys lacrosse team to the JV, to the varsity, and much success, as he tells me, right, Mr. Winslow? Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Right? You be there tomorrow night?
How are you? Good, thanks. Have a good night.
I mean, you're definitely.
Oh, yeah. We were together, but I figured no, that was what I did. Next year, now that I'm mentally there, I become I thought you wanted to hug. You came in fast. Oh, thank you, Danielle. Sounds like they are gonna get her. Sounded like they were gonna get you one. Yeah. And they were very good. They were like the female Untitled. I have
All right, we're going to return to the meeting.
Please don't feel obligated to stay, but we are going to be returning to the meeting now, so we're going to
We have a
ask you.
safety plan review, and then we actually need to vote on the 10-year appointment, which is just.
Are they gonna go to appointment?
What's that? I got to the point, you can say no.
No, not the 10 year. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we want to.
Appointment is stand.
Where is the board?
Oh, okay, great. All right.
First I'd like to acknowledge, board service is something that, really, it's not the greatest job in the world. It really doesn't pay very well. The hours aren't great, sometimes late to the evening.
You don't like hanging out with us? All right.
When somebody steps up to be a board member in a school district, I'm not trying to scare Ms. Mayaski off, but, is she still here? I don't know my glasses.
I don't think so.
Well, it's really, it's a thankless job because, when things are really good, people don't send an email to board members and say, you're doing a great job. But when something goes wrong, the emails come flooding in. And so, this board has been a great board for me. I feel very fortunate that when I got hired, a couple of board members came in that were really fantastic and supported me and have supported me all the way through. That's not true everywhere. But I can say that the culture here and Board of Education here is one that has the best interests of children first and our staff and really want to make some of this a better place. And we are losing one of those board members. We're losing Tom Kelly. And I can say that, when I first met Tom, I knew Tom had a lot of knowledge of Center Merchants, being a former employee, being head of grounds at Manitowoc Cutchoff. So it was kind of like, this is pretty good. we have somebody with a great deal of knowledge, and Tom fit that role beautifully. We're not going to let him off the hook. He's going to be continuing on our facilities committee in perpetuity. But Tom, you've been somebody that has been just such a welcome voice on the Board of Education. You have supported our mission here. You've been a large part of creating the goals that lead what we do in our district. And I can't thank you enough for your service over the past 3 years and your support for me personally during my 10 years so far. So just a small token of our appreciation, Tom. Thank you. No, we.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
I'm not comfortable with praise. I'm going to say a couple of things. Okay.
So as a,
Doesn't feel comfortable with praise.
but
He's been all right.
no, as board head president, sometimes it's my role to talk to people and try and get a decision from the five of us. And the one thing that I've always appreciated from Tom is we could have reasonable discussions, and even if we disagree, they've always been reasonable. And it's coming from a place of, as Ron said, a wealth of knowledge. And he's been such, I don't know that you guys will ever know what a great asset he's been to the Board of Ed over his time here. I'm gonna keep you on speed dial. You're gonna stay in my favorites. Usually I kick you out once, but you're gonna stay in my favorites as we pick your brain whenever we need you. Tom, for the group of us, you are gonna be sorry with us because it's been a great relationship. We really appreciate your time and your service. So thank you.
No, I appreciate it, and I really enjoyed the time on the board. And I feel like we did some good work, and I will continue to help in any way I can.
In perpetuity. And you were just appointed tonight. In perpetuity. Thank you, Tom.
Yes. Okay. There's more talking. All right. So we have it up.
Yes, it's done.
And so one of the things that clearly, when things happen, around the world, things come to the forefront, and so we thought it would be appropriate to do a presentation on our safety plan. But keep in mind that doesn't mean that we haven't been talking about our safety plan all year. We actually have had transition in our security plan. And every time there's transition, there's conversation. And I have to say that we thought with Mr. Townsend stepping down, 15 years ago, things looked very different. 20 years ago, things looked very different when Mr. Townsend first came here and was the face of our security team. The world's changed, lots of things have happened. And with Mr. Townsend stepping down, we looked to bring in an agency. And we brought in an agency. And we found that wasn't the solution. The solution probably was long-term. And now we have Mr. Spiller who's kind of stepped up to fill that role, and he's doing a great job and has really stepped back and very methodically looked at different things and ways we need to improve some of the things we do with security. Every year our emergency preparedness team meets. We have 3 plans that we'll go through. We've got building level plans. And we've got a district-wide plan. The district-wide plan is a plan that is out there for the public to see. It's a bit general in nature, and it's updated annually. But then there are building level plans that are confidential plans that must be kept confidential because people in the building need to know them, but outside people do not need to know them because of certain security measures that are in place that we need to keep confidential. So, as part of the 21st century learning environment, we can do a lot of things. We could build walls around our school, and we could put metal detectors in and do things like that. It's a struggle for me as a superintendent to make recommendations to a Board of Education because what we want to do is we want to maintain the bucolic nature of this community and not put fear in people's hearts, but yet balance that with keeping our kids safe. So we look at it in a number of ways. We look at it holistically. We look at it and say there are things we can do to harden our facilities to make sure that we can keep our kids the safest. But there are also things that we need to do that are more proactive in nature, like focus on social-emotional learning and focus on emotional wellness of our students. Because when we see tragedies take place outside in the world, those people are not well when they commit heinous acts. So for us, we look at it from a K-12 continuum of social emotional supports so that we can not only harden our facilities from outside people, but we can also let students here know that we care and they have help when needed. And we can provide the support for them. So what you've seen over the last 2 years is you've seen us proactively start to say that we're going to use social emotional screeners for students. We started using the care assessment to say that with these screeners, we can start to say, here are some of the strengths that kids have, and here are the challenges that kids have. And we can better know our students. Our students aren't math and reading schools. That's not what they are. They're human beings that have thoughts and feelings. And we need to address those things. So the social emotional supports are the kinds of things that we do coupled with the actual safety plan. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Lockman, who's going to talk a little bit about some of the safety plan requirements and the things that we have to go through, and I'll jump in.
So back in 2017 school year was when legislation was passed that all schools were required to have a formative safety plan. Everyone had a safety plan and procedures in place, but there was no uniformity on them. So the state came out with a method for schools to create a plan off of a template and take that template and relate it to your district. Not every district faces the same oddities, such as we have railroad tracks that run the back of Clayton Huey. What are we going to do in a situation there's a train derailment behind Clayton Huey? So those are the things that we look at as we develop these plans, based on what the state has recommended, as well as knowing what our own issues might be within our community, within our district, that we want to address and we want to take care of. So once we develop that, we are required to submit that plan to the state education department through their secure portal, as well as, and that is every single building level confidential plan goes to the state education department. We also send it over to the Suffolk Police Department so that they have it on their records. Should an emergency take place, they can immediately pull that plan up and see what we are instituting in the district. The plan does require that we designate a chief emergency officer, and then there's structures underneath that of point of contacts. Who's the media person, who's the parent, who's making the phone calls, who's sending out the connected, as well as backup people for those individuals should they not be available at the time. But it is important to note that the building level, as Dr. Sarah said, the building level plans are highly confidential. They are not shared out with the public. They are not shared with the community. We don't post them on the website. Many people have asked to see them. We cannot dispose of them, and I'm sure you can imagine why. It would not be in the best interest of the district. So we do, though, make the actual district-wide VEGA plan available. It is up on the district's website. It is posted every year as we update it. We talk about it over the summer. We post it up there for 30 days for commentary from the public. After those 30 days, we close it down and the board adopts it for institution into the next school year. So again, our building level plans go over our policies and procedures for response to an emergency situation. What do we do in an evacuation? What are we doing in a lockdown? What happens if we need to shelter in place? What happens if we need to move the students to an off-site location, to a safe location for reunification? Where are we going? How are we handling those situations? How are we handling the media? So that's all embedded within our building level plan, which is confidential in nature. So we do have an emergency preparedness committee, as Dr. Sarah said. We do meet about quarterly is when we meet. We talk about topics that are going on in current events. We talk about what may be going on in our school buildings. We do have 2 board members that sit on there, building administrators, district level administrators, security personnel, and then maximum security, that is the contract agency for our armed guards. They have representatives that sit there as well, and they bring another side to it because they are Suffolk Police Department members, and we do actually have our SROs that sit on this committee with us as well. To just kind of, we talk about things, what do we want to see going forward? What are some issues the security guards are running into within our buildings? How do we start addressing them? How do we tackle some problems that we are seeing locally in our district, as well as some issues that are going on outside that we need to start addressing, maybe focusing on a little bit more.
So SRO is school resource officer. Those are Suffolk County Police Department officers that are assigned to districts. We're fortunate because not every school district around has SROs assigned. However, we do, and we value that partnership very much. They push it. I think you've had it here.
Yes.
So when you hear SRO, you'll know because they do push into classes and do lessons and things like that, and they're on call for us.
So certain things that we do staff training, which is required by law. So on Superintendent's Conference Day every year, we gather everybody together in the auditorium, and we do some emergency preparedness training. Everyone gets updated with any procedural trainings in their building level meetings. So the staff-wide meeting is the general reminders of things that they need to be mindful of every day within the building. Staff are to make sure they're shutting doors and not propping them open. If you see a door propped open, unprop it, close the doors. Don't let anybody in that's not a staff member if they don't have an ID on them. Don't just hold the door for someone to be polite. It is polite, but however, in a school environment, it is polite to shut the door on somebody because you're protecting the infrastructure of our school and protecting our students. All those visitors enter the building through main entrances and their IDs are checked through our security guards. We do have stop the bleed training in place, as well as CPR, AED, and first aid training that we offer to all the staff. Some other proactive measures that we've done, mental health and first aid training for all staff. That was something initiated this year. We've had a variety of staff attend this training throughout the course of the year. Teachers, custodial workers, bus drivers, paraprofessionals, administration, security team. Kind of the goal of this is anybody can be that point person to realize there's something wrong with the child. Anybody that is first seeing that child in the morning and might see that something is off, it's not, that kid is not acting the same as they've always been, to bring that to the attention of somebody else so that we can get that child help immediately.
And I think, our goal on Superintendent's Conference Day, I kind of came out and I said, I would like to see every single staff member, bus driver, security guard, teacher, paraprofessional, administrator, take this training. And so I was in the first training, it was about 20 of us. And the goal is to get everybody trained, and we're doing this through grant funding. And I think now we're upwards of almost 200 out of the 300 and some odd employees we have that have received training. So we're really well on our way to get to that point. And after the first training, what I said, and again, I share some of my own stories about mental health struggles that people in my family have had and things, because I think it's important to be transparent about those kinds of things. And then what we do from there is I say, just if you found this valuable, go tell somebody. Go tell somebody else that's valuable. And that word of mouth spreads, and we have not had a problem filling up those classes. So that's kind of good.
We're also focusing on the social emotional learning for all staff and students, as Dr. Pissarro said earlier. We're bringing that into the classrooms, teaching our children, not only our staff, but teaching our children these type of things and what to be aware of and how to handle your emotions and your feelings. The school resource officer, they push into our classrooms, K-12, and do various presentations for all of our staff and students. We have child study teams, threat assessment teams. We have a no place for hate designation, District 12, right? We're K-12 now?
Yeah.
No place for hate.
Yeah.
And we're running safety drills as required by law. So we do make sure we maintain doing all those drills as we're required and practice them. Granted, the past couple of years, they've been looking a little different because we were not allowed to do them to the fullest extent, but we are now running them the way they should be run, and they just kind of reminding the kids while we taught them, by a lesson what to do in emergency, we're now actually acting those drills out again. So the drills that we're doing, we have to do 8 evacuation drills, 4 lockdown drills, and then in the summer school program, we run 2 evacuation drills for that program as well. The evacuation drills don't necessarily have to be a fire drill. That is what we're commonly aware of. It could be any type of evacuation. If you have a gas leak, you're evacuating your building. We typically do it by the fire alarm. However, in the beginning of the school year, we have to have so many done, of which half have to be evacuation drills and half have to be the lockdown drills. We are in compliance with all of them. The children are educated on all the procedures before we actually do the drill. The drills do become announced at first, and then once we know that they're comfortable with understanding what's required, they become unannounced drills. And what we're talking now, moving forward, is trying to do them in uncharacteristic manners. So when there is a lockdown drill, maybe pull the fire alarm, make sure the kids know that now you're not to leave the building, you need to stay quiet. It should not be muscle memory, you really need to think on your toes in those situations. We do run the drills during lunch periods, during the change of class time, just so that the kids know what to do in those type of events, because it's never always going to happen when everyone is sitting in a classroom at that time. So we try to make sure we change it up just to make sure the kids and the staff are fully comfortable. God forbid an emergency occurs and we actually have to enact it. So with regard to our security team, we have an armed guard in each building. The budget for that is about $106,000. We do contract from Maximum Security, it's a bid. A couple years ago, it was Arrow Security who won the bid. Past 2 years now, it's been Maximum, and they've been great, very responsive. They are current active Suffolk Police Department staff that are in those positions. Our building level security, about a $260,000 budget for that. So district-wide, we have 1 full-time guard, Mr. Spiller, currently fills that role. Clayton Huey, we have 3 full-time guards. Middle school, we have a full-time guard. High school, 2 full-time guards. In the evenings, we do have one guard that patrols both campuses, and then additional guards as we need for after-school events, sporting events, dances, clubs, drama, all those types of things. We do bring additional guards in to cover those events. So we ran into some obstacles this year, and most of it was staffing. We are having some trouble getting security guards. We are doing the best we can. Our guys, some of them are here from the morning until the evening, working overtime, double time, wherever they can fill in, trying to help us out, make sure we have full staff and the coverage is there. But we have been finding that we've had a little bit of a struggle this year with getting that coverage. A lot of our guys are retired former law enforcement that are working part-time for us. Some of them are active, either Suffolk PD or NYPD, which then, conflicts with their regular full-time job scheduling. So we do have, a little bit of a struggle there. A proposed solution, this is just a proposal that is a conversation to be continued with the board, is we could contract to an outside agency. We could do a bid, or there's current bids out there that we could piggyback off of and hire an outside agency to provide security for the buildings. It would be guaranteed coverage, so if somebody calls in sick, they would make sure they send somebody else over to our building. We wouldn't be struggling trying to see if we have somebody available of our limited staff that we already have. We have more consistency, more reliability. We'd be able to get more training from an outside agency because they do provide various trainings for their security staff as well as in-district staff. And then another viewpoint outside recommendations of protocols that are going on within the district. So what's the cost of that? What does this look like? We currently budgeted for our in-house guards, which is about $416,000 between the armed and the in-house. Going over to a contract is about $476,000. So it's about a $60,000 increase to the budget, which is not budgeted for. However, we've been seeing a lot of savings happening within the Coronavirus Relief Act grant that we have. That's a 3.5-year grant that was put into place when we originally got it. We had to estimate those expenditures out for 3.5 years. And as you know, things change, priorities have changed, we've shifted some things, cost came in lower than what we anticipated. So we're seeing some savings happening throughout that proposed budget, which is resulting in the ability to fund this difference should the board choose to go over to a contracted agency. This would, though, have to roll into the general fund budget in the 23-24 budgeting cycle. So again, just to review some measures we currently have in place, we have camera viewing software upgrades. The current software we use, they upgraded our server. We have upgraded the system, so the cameras that we're looking at are a little bit clearer and easier access to get to. The labeling of them, the principals can quickly see certain cameras a lot easier than they used to be able to do in the past. We've installed large TVs in all administrators' offices so that they can see more cameras better. If they're not looking on their little tiny monitors, they can switch it over to their bigger TVs if needed. The guard booth here at the high school, we upgraded to a larger TV so that they have better viewing capability as well. We have the RAVE app available for all staff. It's an emergency app. Everybody has the ability to initiate a lockdown, call 911, reach out to somebody for help if their child is sick. Currently, we have 144 users on that. Every year, we constantly re-invite the staff to join onto that. Mr. Spiller made a big push the past couple of weeks, and we've seen a lot of increased activity of people joining onto that RAVE app. And we'll revisit it again in September with all the staff to make sure we try to get 100% of everybody available on that app. The visitor management software we have in all of our buildings. That's the ID system when parents come in and they have to hand in their license to be checked. And then we have Suffolk PD. They have access to all of our cameras. So in an emergency, they can easily tie into our camera system to see what's going on. And it's only in the event of emergency that they would do that. They don't tie it to our cameras at any other point. It's only at that point that that would be initiated. So for 22-23, these are some upgrades that we've budgeted for. The scholarship software, it's a kiosk system that we're going to implement here at the high school. And what it is all students will be required to have an ID on them. They will scan in when they walk into the building in the morning. It gives us the ability to control who's supposed to be in the cafeteria, who's not supposed to be in the cafeteria. They'll scan in and out of the cafeteria during their period only. If they're not supposed to be there, it will alert the monitor or security, whoever might be doing it at that point in time, that child is not supposed to be there and they're supposed to be in another class or somewhere else within the building. We also have the ability to monitor who is allowed at sporting events. So if we know we have a situation taking place and we're limiting spectators to an event, we can put in the specific grades that are allowed at those events, and kids would be scanning in to make sure that they're allowed to be there. Should a child be suspended and is not allowed on property, they would have to scan in and it would alert the staff that they are not supposed to be on school property at that time, and then they would be next to go. We're adding a full-time guard at Clayton Huey. So we originally had proposed a 4-hour guard for Clayton Huey, more for their lunch periods, so that we make sure we always have somebody on the outside while we're continuing to monitor the inside of the building. However, we've gotten a significant increase in our UPK funding, so we're allowed to kind of use that money as we need, and since we're now running UPK within Clayton Huey, and we are seeing a struggle with arrival and dismissal time specifically for those, we're expanding that to a full-day guard using the UPK money to supplement the cost of that. The addition would be middle-level administration oversight for security team. Currently, I oversee all of security with the help of Mr. Spiller. For the scheduling and the day-to-day operations, we have proposed changing administration structure to have Mr. Tho take over as athletic director as well as oversee security and facilities. And so he would be that middle person. So while we have Mr. Spiller doing the scheduling, the day-to-day, Mr. Thode would be that person that's still looking at the buildings and watching the cameras, handling specific situations, and then it would escalate up to me. I would oversee Mr. Thode in that area. So adding that extra layer is something we've always talked about. How many layers of security do you need and controls that we could have in place. So this is just one more thing that we're looking at to make sure that our students are safe. So we're currently updating the plan for 22-23. Administration is reviewing it, looking at it, making changes to it as needed. People have changed, committee members will be changing. So we will present the plan in August at our August meeting. We'll have it ready for presentation to the community and to the board. At that time, it will be posted to the website for the 30-day period, and then we will adopt it thereafter. So we have to have it submitted to the state, I believe it's by October 1st. So we will make sure we're on time with that and have it ready and available for everyone. That's it. Questions from the board?
Thank you. So, questions and comments on tonight's agenda? No? All right, let's get to it.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Oh, we do? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I just had some questions on the most recent presentation.
Yep.
Should I introduce myself?
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Did you sign into the?
I did. I had come in a little late, sorry, bedtime and dinner time. My name is Stephanie Everhard. I'm a kindergartner at Clayton Huey. So thank you so much for this presentation, because especially in light of recent events, not only nationwide, but also happening in our own elementary school, that is really helpful. And in fact, if I could request to make this maybe one step further and do a community presentation, maybe actually advertise that you're going to be discussing this. At a recent PTO meeting, this had come up and some parents were really concerned. And we were given some really helpful information similar to what you presented here. And I do understand, I'm an educator myself, so I completely understand that there's a lot of information that cannot be shared for security purposes, but there are some nuances that you may not realize would be really helpful for parents at home. So for example, I teach in another district, and granted I've been in and out with maternity leaves over the last couple of years, so I'm a little rusty, but when my daughter was telling me about the drill, I knew exactly what she was talking about. But there are other parents who don't understand why they were, hiding in the bathroom, or they were hiding behind the stacks. And so for parents to be made aware of, this is what this is. And again, we do get a lot of times we get the emails home, but to also talk about the protocol. Like, for example, saying stay, the middle school principal, I believe, was at our last meeting, right? She was saying, the students are supposed to go to the nearest locked door.
the nearest locked room. And actually, that wasn't training that I had been given in my district. And so I would have told my daughter, no, stay exactly where you are and stay super quiet. And so now I'm giving her contradictory information, and I didn't know that, and I didn't know I wasn't giving her the proper information for our district. So some details like that I think would be really helpful for community members and get them, have them feel a little bit more safe and understanding on how they can help their kids to prepare. My daughter she loves to role play, so there's a lot of this going on at home about, well, this is what we're supposed to do, and then, Mama, what if this happens at home? I want to be able to follow the school protocol properly. And I actually, in some recent information getting through Moms Demand Action, there is an organization called Be Smart, and they do free presentations for staff, for community members, and it's really sounded wonderful, and it's on gun safety. So having, for example, a bullet found in our building, that's a whole nother conversation about what do you do? I've never talked with my daughter about what if she finds a bullet or a gun or anything else like that. And she never came home talking about it, thankfully. But actually hearing a little bit about this presentation, I should have talked to her about it. And it is an opportunity to talk to kids about gun safety and what do you do, and actually as a parent, some ownership on my point. If she, for example, she's going over, her house or, their house over there, actually asking them, do you have a gun in the home? Just as if I would ask, like, do you have pets, or do you have, my daughter has an allergy, she doesn't, but, that kind of protocol, and making it become more common to talk about, so that we are more prepared when there is a situation that we need to address. So if I could just respectfully request that there's, like a community discussion. This was really helpful, and having it on the website is super helpful, but also talking to us about how we should be talking to our kids and preparing our kids, so that we're all on the same page would be really great. And I can email you the information on Be Smart if you'd like it.
And we're always happy to do presentations on anything, and, we've talked to, PTO wants us to come in and do something on some of our mental health issues,
Yeah.
a little bit broader. Always happy to have those conversations, that's something we're doing. In addition, the Emergency Preparedness Committee is an open committee that people can join if they want to be a part of the conversation too.
If I can, I absolutely will do so. I did double check the website and I didn't see any dates on it. So.
Well, we're in the process.
You're in the process of updating? Okay. So I'll double check.
Some of that stuff up.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Finally.
And your recommended action, that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of school, the Board of Education approves tenure appointments for the following individuals: Jacqueline Bonfouture, Marissa Clifford, Lauren Jerkowitz, Jessica Lopez, Melissa Nagaki, Jessica Spillett, Christopher Winslow.
Motion. Second. All in favor? Yes. Motion carries. I don't think they went home to lunch, just in case they are. Congratulations.
Jackie.
Congratulations. What's going on?
You're giving it up in about 2 minutes.
We have the minutes and then.
Enjoy it. Enjoy it all.
Oh, yeah.
The Board of Education is asked to accept the minutes of the following meetings as prepared by the speaker. Minutes of the meeting of the Board of Education, 5/25/22.
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Financial
Hurry,
reports.
Janine, hurry.
Be resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, accepts the following financial reports. Internal claims audit report for May 2022.
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. I'm supposed to say that, right? Yeah, any discussion? All in favor? Yes, motion carries unanimously. One of these days I'll figure it out.
Approve consent agenda items as presented. Be resolved, a motion to approve the consent agenda items 11A through 14A. Consent agenda items are approved by a single vote unless they are removed from being a consent item prior to the vote.
Motion. Second.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Yes. Motion carries unanimously.
We're gonna need your resignation.
They're gonna take the pen.
Because you can't have 2 jobs.
Dennis said she gets 2 pens though, so.
In a couple of years.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations.
This is why we're on the board.
There we go. Now,
We're on the board for this stuff. Not for repair reserve.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone tonight. Thank you.
It was just. Kindergarten was approved just that. But the person.
General public comment about anything? I think we only have 3 people from the general public. Motion to adjourn? No. Motion to move into executive session, purpose of which to discuss personnel that would otherwise be invading personal privacy. Motion, second. All in favor? Yes, we are going to come back out of exec at some point, but we will not take any action yet. There'll be no action taken, so we'll just come out and adjourn, and that'll be the end of the night. Informational items. Okay, this one this time. The next Board of Ed meeting is Wednesday, July 6th, 2022.
it is.
So thank you very much for coming tonight. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Bill. And we'll see you hopefully July 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom Kelly.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.